History, a paramount priority for progress of a people, arguably the most important cultural property. It is the great unifier of a people. It is the shining beacon that restores vision to the blind. It is imperative that we learn from it, that we may emulate its successes and create a unified effort to prevent repeating its mistakes. For without history, we are without purpose. We are without identity. Welcome to the gray area, where we examine history in hindsight. January 4th, 1777, Prince Hall, who was an African-American abolitionist and leader in the free black community of Boston and founder of the first African-American Masonic Lodge, petitioned the Massachusetts legislature for a fund to return to Africa. The plan is the first recorded effort by African-Americans to return to Africa. 1847, Samuel Colt sells his first revolver pistol to the United States government. That pistol became the standard issue for all military soldiers. 1865, the New York Stock Exchange opens its first permanent headquarters at 1012 Broad Street near Wall Street in New York City. 1896, Utah became the 45th state of the United States. 1936, the first pop music chart based on national sales was published by Billboard magazine. 1948, Burma gains its independence from the long-standing British occupation. 1951, during the Korean conflict, North Korea and Communist Chinese forces captured the city of Seoul, South Korea. 1958, Soviet satellite Sputnik 1 fell to the Earth from its orbit. The craft had been launched in 1957. 1959, Luna 1 becomes the first craft to leave Earth's gravity. 1962, New York City introduced a train that operated completely without conductors and motormen. 1965, in his State of the Union address, then U.S. President Lyndon B. Johnson proclaimed the building of the Great Society and henceforth created the Greater Society Act of 1965. 1971, Congressional Black Caucus is first organized by a group of African-American members of the House of Representatives. Of those members included the esteemed Shirley Chisholm of New York, the esteemed Louis Stokes of Ohio, and the esteemed William L. Clay of Missouri. 1974, President Nixon refuses to hand over tape recordings and documents subpoenaed by the Senate Watergate Committee. 1985, Congressman William H. Gray is elected chairman of the House Budget Committee. This is the highest congressional post held by any African American at that time. 1991, the UN Security Council voted unanimously to condemn Israel's treatment of the Palestinians in the occupied territories. 1999, former Navy SEAL and professional wrestler Jesse Ventura is sworn in as Minnesota's 37th governor. 2007, Nancy Pelosi became Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives. She was the first woman to hold the position, and she has held that position since then. 2010, the United Arab Emirates, specifically Dubai, opens the Dubai Tower for the first time, as it is the world's largest tower at 2,625 feet. However, rewinding back to 1884, the Fabian Society was founded, otherwise known as the Socialist Fabian Society, named in honor of Quintus Fabius Maximus, also known as the Great Delayer and creator of the Fabian Stratagem, which refers to the strategy that he employed against Hannibal Barca's forces during the Second Punic War. The Fabian strategy is a military strategy where pitched battles and frontal assaults are avoided in favor of wearing down an opponent through a war of attrition and indirection. While avoiding decisive battles, the side employing this strategy harasses its enemy through skirmishes to cause attrition, disrupt supply, and affect morale. Quintus Fabius Maximus employed this strategy against Hannibal Barca, the esteemed and greatly revered general of the Carthaginian army, because to his own admission, he could not face or defeat Hannibal Barca in a frontal assault. He knew that he was facing an outstanding commander with superior numbers, battlefield awareness, and also well-versed in frontal assault and covert warfare. And so he pursued a less valiant but novel strategy of targeting Hannibal Barca's supply line, rather risking his entire army on a direct confrontation with Hannibal himself. As a result, he is regarded as the originator of many tactics used in guerrilla warfare. The Fabian Society's early membership included the Victorian elite. Among them were poets, artists, musicians, sociologists, playwrights, and bankers. They wanted to transform society by setting an example of simplified living for others to follow. Some members also wanted to become politically involved to aid society's quote unquote transformation. One of their brainchildren was called eugenic. You see, history, much like time, waits for no man. It is up to us to decide whether we choose to make it or be the reason we repeat it. However, we can only learn from it by looking at history in hindsight.